Good morning. Welcome back to White Mountains Today here on White Mountain TV 16. And joining us today is Sarah Odsley. Sarah, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. And we're going to talk about the community garden. Mm-hmm. And I was surprised to find out that there's more than one community gardens.
Well, there's one Valley Community Garden, and we manage two sites, one on Tasker Hill Road in Conway, and then also one off of Washington Street.
And so I guess the question is, or the thing that people might be wondering, what is a community garden? How do you define what a community garden is versus the garden that's in your backyard?
Well, I see it as a way to connect people in the community through food. And we have 28 plots available to rent at the Tasker Hill site and 15 at the Washington Street site. And it's a way for you to come, a place for you to grow your own food and meet other people in the valley. And we also run a giving garden, which is all the seedlings that we planted this season are donated from Earl Family Farm. And all the produce that we grow in the giving garden is donated to local nonprofits. Like in the past, it's been Dinner Bell, Starting Point, the Gibson Center.
Well, that's great. And that is volunteers. You have volunteers who come and help tend the garden.
Yes, that's the goal.
Well, that's the ultimate goal. Does it happen? No, of course it happens. And so what will happen is probably people are there tending their own garden, then they take a little extra time and then tend the community garden.
We kindly request that people, when they're weeding their own plot, to donate 10, 15 minutes to weeding the giving garden.
And how big is each person's plot?
They're 4 feet by 12 feet.
That's a lot of garden.
Well,
that's a nice size.
Yeah, it's more long than wide.
Oh, that's great. And now, do you guys now? Because you said you're an aspiring garden. If I don't know how to describe it, you want to be the ultimate gardener. And so I was being nice because you said novice. I didn't want to say novice, but you want to be the ultimate gardener.
Well, I personally consider myself a novice gardener, but one of the things that I enjoy is teaching and learning, and so I'm also in charge of organizing free monthly workshops, so I can learn too. So we have one in July, which is on good bugs versus bad bugs, and that's July 16th. And then we have one in August 20th, which is on seed saving, because as we get towards the end of the season, it's good to know how to seed save.
Right.
And then we have one on September 17th, which is on cold frame construction, and ways and techniques to extend the growing season.
Yeah. Now, you just wrote an article in the paper about the gardening coach.
Yeah, her name is Noam Buckman, and her website is coachgardengnome.com. And she did a free monthly workshop in June this month, last weekend, on June 4th. And she comes in and she can, she's kind of like a consultant.
Yeah.
So she can go in and look at your garden and tell you what you need to do and test your soil. And she did a composting workshop for us and talked about the lasagna layering system. And I summed up that in the article that I wrote, which came out in the paper on Friday. Yeah,
I saw that in there. Well, that's great. Now, you also said you've got some books with you because you're trying to learn. So is there a lot you can learn from? I mean, obviously you can learn from books. I'm sounding like, can you learn from books? But in terms of gardening books, is there a lot of gardening books out there and a lot of information to help you teach yourself?
Yeah, one of the things that Noam pointed out in her composting workshop was that there's so much information on composting that sometimes it's hard to weed through.
Weed through? Okay, sorry.
So anyway, the two books that I like are Carrots Love Tomatoes. It's about companion planting, and I got mine from the library. And then Elliot Coleman's book, he's actually a Mainer, and it's called The New Organic Grower. And the reason why I like this book is because it's really geared towards novices, but you can also learn a lot even if you have experience.
Yeah.
And he breaks down things really well. It's really well written, and one of my goals this summer is to go see his farm in Harborside, Maine. And he is also, all organic, but also like very small. You don't need that many acres to produce enough food for you and your family or whoever you want to plant food and grow food for.
Now, I imagine also with the community garden, if you're up there weeding and kind of tending your garden, there's other people there, so I'm sure there's a lot of camaraderie, a lot of questions that people share, because I'm sure that you have some very novice gardeners, and you have some experienced gardeners who go up and use the land up there.
Yeah, the Tasker Hill site is owned by Russ Lanoy, and he knows a lot, and him and his wife. So they're big resources. We also have a bulletin board up where I'm trying to post, tips and advice on what to plant, when to plant. But I don't know, you just put it in the ground and hopefully it grows.
Well, and then of course last week, we had those days where it was brutally cold, then it was brutally hot, and so that adds some challenges to your gardening. Yeah,
I guess for the heat, I'm just concerned about getting it watered. And yeah, I think we're New Englanders. The plants need to make it through the winters.
Right. I mean, it's not one of those things where you can just kind of plant it and forget it. You've got to tend to it.
Yeah, and I know lots of people don't have time to do extra things like this, but I really enjoy getting my hands dirty, and it's fun.
Yeah, getting out in the garden.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks so much for coming down today.
Thank you.
So if somebody wants to find out more about the community garden, and then you still have some plots left over?
Yeah, there are a limited number of plots left. People can call me, Sarah Odsley. I have a cell phone number. It's 802-299-6269. I also have an email that I'm managing. It's mwvgardens@gmail.com.
All righty. Well, that sounds great. Well, Sarah, thanks so much for coming
down.
Thank you. And we'll be back here in a minute on White Mountains Today.
At Great